Is misandry more allowed than misogyny? Choose your speakers.
I just think with the prom saying that it's like more permissible, like how many times have we seen like I hate men, men are trash online, and then if you were to say anything remotely like that, you would get flamed into eternity, right?
I think it's really important to look at how we're defining permitted, because permitted legally and in corners of the internet that no one wants to go to are so different. Just because some woman on the internet is screaming, oh my God, I hate men, men should burn, men are trash, and her comments are lighting her up, does not mean that that's how society operates. A majority of the time, misogyny is so much more permitted within society because it is such a systemic issue. There is not a systemic hatred of men in society. It's just, it doesn't exist. Misogyny gets women killed, okay? Misandry makes men have little hurt feelings sometimes.
We know that misandry is more permissible because have you ever heard of like toxic womanhood? No, but you hear of toxic masculinity. You hear people arguing against just being masculine itself. They treat it like it's a problem, like our very identity and part of who we are is a problem. That never happens with women. It just doesn't.
I think misogyny has a much different historical and sociological context than misandry, which is the hate for men, especially because this has become such a thing that's been developed recently as a counter to feminism rather than actually speaking about things that men are actually dealing with.
Another idea that came about in the 20th century where women got educated and it developed this adversarial relationship with men where it used to work in tandem, right? The order, the man leading his household. We all kind of agreed with that. Some of us who come from Christian and Muslim backgrounds agreed with that, and some of us who didn't agree with that. When that was disrupted, women started trying to compete with men. They said, well, why is he above me now? I feel bad. They started getting fed all this stuff. Then it caused competition in the workplace.
Correction, white women started competing with white men.
I didn't go there, but you're right.
Then when Sojourner Truth came in and started speaking about women's rights, she was abruptly told that she needs to leave.
Whoever's going to do it, let's get to middle ground.
Finding middle ground is going to be difficult, though. Men do get demonized a lot. I understand why, the fact that there's still an Andrew Tate and he's popular, that's a problem. But at the same time, I think misogyny is an even bigger problem.
Votes for Abram? Okay, remind everybody your name. Oliver? Oh, yeah, Oliver has it. Yay! Appreciate it.
There was a point in the past where misogyny was more rampant, right? But I think we've actually flipped now. Third wave feminism.
They have parades in the street
This is why we got to get to the middle ground. We got to get to the middle ground because of that, though. We have to get to the middle ground.
So I think the middle ground could be, I think the middle ground could be that both have been problems in this country.
Raise your hands if you want Mike to speak on this issue. I see one. What's your name? Ryan. Raise your hands if you want Ryan. I'm seeing the most. I'm seeing 4. All right, so the two groups have chosen Ryan and Oliver for this. Is misandry more allowed than misogyny?
Yeah, I would say absolutely it is. I mean, we hear this term toxic masculinity used. Have we ever heard the term toxic femininity? No, we don't. But there are some women that have behaviors that I would say are toxic. We were talking earlier about false rape accusations. Yeah, that does happen, and that would be a toxic trait coming from them. And it's just a lot of the plights of men are often just discounted because they're men. We are told inherently that who we are is toxic by that term toxic masculinity in and of itself.
So I would disagree a little bit. I think first it's really important when we're having a conversation about masculinity at all to define what we mean by masculinity. So I think a lot of the times when people are attacking toxic masculinity, as a man, I don't view it as an attack on me because they, in my view, are attacking traits such as like over-aggression. These traits such as suppressing your emotions to the point at which you can't function, or to the point at which you are not able to communicate with your partner in a healthy manner. Demonizing gay men or other men as not real men because they don't live the same lifestyle as you. There's a lot of different things like that. So when people talk about toxic masculinity, I don't see that as a form of misandry. I see them calling out types of behaviors that are harmful to everyone, including men. So any woman or any person who calls out toxic masculinity, I view as an advocate, an ally of men, and not someone who hates them.
But why not just call out the negative behavior itself?
Because there is a type of behavior that is exemplified and takes it to an unhealthy level. You should not become, never talk about your emotions so much so that you become a raging mess and take out your aggression on people violently. That's not good. And that is a form of, I don't even know if it would really be a full form of masculinity. It's a perversion of masculinity. Toxic masculinity, as I talked about earlier, it leads men to literally kill themselves if they think they can't talk about their emotions in such a way that is healthy. So I think that's actually really helpful to men in that regard.
I don't think so. I think, too, that just aggression in general, you said that like it's a bad thing. I actually think aggression can be a good thing.
I said over-aggression. I think in certain contexts, competitiveness, great. It's fine. But
like
if you're
defending your family would require a man to be overly aggressive to protect their family.
First off,
we want our soldiers. We want our soldiers. We want people that are fighting in UFC to be overly aggressive. Those are things that we actually identify as good, and even women show preference to it. But the question, going back to the question, is normalization of hatred for men more prevalent than for women? And I would say yes, overwhelmingly yes.
So where do you see the hatred of men primarily? I'm just curious.
Well, I see it in women's marches, and I see it in general conversation when women are like, I don't need a man.
I don't need a man?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious. If a man were to say, I don't really need a woman, I'm happy living my life the way I am, I enjoy my career, I enjoy where I'm at, I'm just not really in a position where I need a woman. Would he be hating women by making that type of statement, making such a sentiment?
Women?
Yeah, would you say they hate women?
Well, that's not celebrated, though. That's not something that's...
No, but that's not what I said, though. I said, is that an example of hating women?
Is that an example of hating women?
Because you said an example of hating men is saying I don't need a man.
Yeah, but they're doing it in a way to put down men. They're doing it because they view the patriarchal structure of society as being an inherently bad thing. Why?
So wait a second. Because I think a society in which is structured so that men have certain advantages over women unfairly is unfair to them. I don't think attacking patriarchy or the advantages that men get is in any way attacking them. There's a famous phrase that to the privilege, equality feels like oppression. Okay? So just because you are in a certain position and someone is saying, hey, I don't really think it's fair that you, for example, are taken more seriously in business meetings or have a better access to this certain education, or within schools, you're pushed towards more STEM fields, and me as a woman, I'm pushed to more humanities or caretaking fields. I don't think that, I don't see that as a hatred of men. So any other examples of misandry, happy to hear them from you, and I'll say why I don't really think they're that prevalent.
So even in a case like, let's look at the issue with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Yeah. It was automatically assumed when that news broke that Baldoni was guilty. Everyone just assumed that in the very beginning, and as more evidence came out, it was looked at the opposite way. It's because we have a culture that teaches women essentially to be afraid of men that were a problem.
Wait, I thought that was a very, very balanced case. I mean, I don't...
In the very beginning, no, because the general media consensus, at least from my understanding, was in favor of Blake Lively, but as more evidence came out, they thought otherwise.
And here's my issue with this media perception, is on social media, we see the extremes amplified. We see the most extreme voices, the people who will say something, get a clip. I don't need men. Men are trash. Men should burn. Kill all men. But that is not actually prevalent. That is not something that exists outside of the realms of Twitter and the TikTok algorithm. Go up to your average woman on the street. Ask her, how do you feel about men? I'm sure that she would give you a ton of things that she loves about men, because there's so many women who date men, marry men, have men that they love in their lives. And that's the reality of people who exist in our society, not the fringe people on the internet. So
yeah, but there are a lot of women that are foregoing marriage, foregoing relationships, not having kids, all of these things because they're taught to be afraid of men.
Wait, are they taught to, what teaches them to be afraid of men?
Feminism?
No, 1 second. I don't think feminism. Is it possible that their life experiences with men teach them to be afraid of men? The fact that an overwhelming majority of women have experienced some form of sexual assault at the hands of a man or sexual harassment. Ask any woman in your life about a negative experience that she's had with a man. It'd be hard to find one who hasn't. Do you think that's possibly what makes women afraid?
Sure Oliver, I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to make sure we get more in from him before we start going for the middle ground.
Okay, yeah. I mean, anything you want to respond to?
There have been men that have been guilty of doing awful things toward women, but this mindset that I believe is taught is that all the men are guilty of doing this, that you can't trust any man, that you can't be alone with any man. It's very common that women say that they're afraid to walk down the streets. Somebody in the previous, when I was having conversation, said that they had that analogy of would you rather be alone with a man or a bear? And most women chose the grizzly bear that would rip them apart. That's crazy.
So wait a second. Now, granted, I am not a woman, so I don't understand the fear of walking down the street every night and feeling like I have a target on my back. So instead of looking at this and being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, the women are insane, I'm not even gonna deal with them. When I saw that trend, I was like, wow, Like that is, imagine living your life in a state where you feel like you are at risk of your physical safety from 50% of the population. That must be awful, and we should look into the reasons why, what is it, like 97% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment. You ask any woman if she's had an unwanted encounter of a sexual romantic nature with a man, I guarantee the overwhelming majority will be able to tell you. It comes from real life experience, not this amorphous threat of men. Men are real, and men can be very threatening because of many of the biological differences that I feel you would be very sympathetic to. Men are largely stronger. Men are largely larger. Men are largely, have a lot of that over women. So women, sometimes because of the physical nature are more vulnerable. It makes sense for them to be more wary of men. That's just a rational response.
Yeah, to the point where they would rather.
I want to hear your response, and then we're going to go into.
Sure.
But to the point where they would rather choose to be alone with a grizzly bear over a man in the woods. How many men does the average woman really believe that she would be safer alone with a grizzly bear that is trained to rip them apart than a man? It doesn't make any sense to me because men show up too and to defend women.
Of course,
men have fought for women's rights. I mean, fought for this country.
They've also been the ones fighting against them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to stop. I want to stop you guys here.
Yeah.
Plenty of disagreement, but it's time to start throwing.
I want to hear more examples of misandry. I still don't know what it is, so I want to know.
Well, I think we're out of time.
It's a hatred of men.
We can keep exploring your disagreements as we start proposing where there's a middle ground.
I think too.
And so let's hear from you
just look at our education system, all right? So a lot of young boys are slapped with ADHD diagnoses. We're taught that just the nature of us being who we are, just being a little bit rambunctious or having high energy is like a bad thing. So instead of treating that, instead of dealing with that, or instead of restructuring our education system to accommodate men, they don't. They slap pills on young boys, get them hopped up on ADHD medication, and don't actually let them get their aggression out or their energy out in healthy ways.
And you think it's because they hate men?
Yeah, I do. I don't think it's in part.
I don't think it's because they hate men. I think it's because the big pharma wants to sell you pills instead of the solution to the problem, and I think that transcends gender. They do it to both individuals. This doesn't seem like a gender-specific issue, right?
Okay, so both of you, it's time to start offering a statement that you think you can both
Disparate
agree on.
impact is really interesting that he agrees with that.
What's a statement you think you can both agree on?
I have one.
Yeah.
Hating anyone for genuinely hating them because of their sex or their gender is just wrong. You shouldn't do it. If someone genuinely hates men or genuinely hates women, that's not good. We should not promote people hating people based on any immutable characteristic, and sex is included within there. Yeah, okay.
The question is misandry.
I don't think I can find middle ground on this because misogyny literally kills women, and misandry.
I mean that statement in itself.
Are you kidding me?
Our very presence.
No. You misunderstood me. You misunderstood me.
Okay,
the
explain.
hatred of women kills women.
Yes.
Would you disagree with that?
The hatred of, hatred could lead to killing
So
somebody
the definition
else,
of misogyny is the hatred of women.
Yeah.
So the misogyny kills women.
Yeah.
That's what I just
said.
said.
The same thing. The hatred of men, teaching them who they are as being toxic, could lead to them ending their own lives.
Okay, so because some men might have a misunderstanding of what misandry is, and they might kill themselves, then that's the same thing as men killing women because
or
they hate
being
them.
unjustly locked up for rape accusations.
And how often
because automatically it's deferred that the woman is innocent, she's not guilty, and the man is guilty.
What about Johnny Depp? Did that happen in that case? What about in Chris Brown? Did that happen in that case?
Chris Brown.
What about in Donald Trump? Did that happen in that case? What happened to Brett Kavanaugh?
Brett Kavanaugh was demonized.
What? Yeah, he was. And where is he
dragged
right now?
Yeah, because
where is he right now?
It failed.
Tell me where he is. Where is he right now?
He's sitting on the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Okay, what do you want to propose as? What's a statement you want to propose that you think you can both agree on?
I don't think that.
Well, that's our middle ground. We can't find any middle ground on this, I don't really think.
Yeah.
Well, let's give it another sec.
I think hating men is wrong.
I think misandry is normal. It's very normalized to the point where we don't even realize it.
You can't give me an example of it. That's what I'm wondering.
I gave you a bunch of examples.
But the examples you gave me were women trying to live their lives of their own autonomy and accord, which is saying, I don't need a man, which is fine. I don't see what world you view that as hatred unless you think you're entitled to women.
Yeah, but
That's the only way I interpret that as a hatred of man. I'm being as charitable as I literally possibly can.
I gave you the ADHD example of schools being structured toward that.
It's structured towards that, but the issue is you can't just say that an issue affects men, and therefore it's because we hate men.
I've literally heard women say, I hate men.
Of course,
literally.
Absolutely. And
death to the patriarchy,
of course.
all these things.
Wait a second.
That.
Death to the patriarchy means death to the societal structures in which give men more societal power than women for no reason. That's not the hatred of men unless you think men ought to have that power because they are men. That is the only way you interpret it that way. So all I'm showing here is a lot of these ideas of what you think misandry is are just your misogynistic instincts and assumptions being exposed.
Yeah, so now you're assuming that I'm misogynistic.
I'm not assuming.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not assuming. That was not an assumption. I gave you a very clearly
you're
rhetorical
demonstrating
path.
it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, I hate men.
What is he demonstrating?
Dismissive of men.
Dismissive?
Showing this general sentiment of animosity toward men. He's showing it.
How?
You just did it.
So I said that you have a disdain towards women because you view breaking down societal structures that benefit men
You called
as
me
hating men.
misogynistic.
Because that's literally the definition.
Do you think he's misogynistic?
Yeah, probably. I think we all are a little bit, some more than others. Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get.
No, granted,
to a
I want to
middle
point
ground.
something out. I don't think I'm free of misogyny either. So this is not to say that you are a terrible individual or that I am a terrible individual. I've done a lot of learning to unlearn a lot of these ideas that, frankly, I've been instilled with throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
So,
but I want to encourage you. Just for, I'm sensing there's a lot of energy coming from your side, and so I do want to give you an opportunity to, expand on what you just said. You feel like he's coming from a misogynistic place, but you say you might be coming from one.
Absolutely.
If you were to lower your temperature a few degrees and expand on that in a way that he might understand.
We're two men debating women's issues, so there's only so much of a perspective that I can provide here. And this is not, I realize that I have not taken the most charitable approach in this conversation, and I apologize for that. I do not think you're a bad person. I do not think you actively hate women. I think misogyny can linger in so many ways that we don't even realize. Even when you hear, this just happened last week with me. Someone was like, oh yeah, Dr. Berg moved to another institution. I said, oh, where'd he go? That's an example of it. I assumed that Dr. Berg was a man. Dr. Berg was, in fact, a very qualified epidemiologist. That's the type of underlying misogyny that many of us have.
I mean, isn't that just a misunderstanding?
It's not because wait a minute. Hold on. It's not because your assumption is doctor is associated with man. That's your first assumption. When women can be doctors too. Why doesn't the assumption go to women being doctors? Why isn't it?
Because I guess we grow up where a lot of people just assume that men are doctors. I don't know that.
Because more men are doctors.
Maybe that
because they've been
person's
given.
dad was a doctor, so he just had it in his mind that his dad's a doctor. So yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
It's okay if we can't get to a middle ground, but just one last chance.
Yeah.
At least offer a statement that you think both sides can agree with.
Yeah, I obviously believe that there's, misogyny. I believe that. I believe there's misandry. I believe these things happen. Sure. But I think at a societal level, we do see more of it negatively toward men, not women. Show me, give me examples of where you think this is happening more predominantly against women than men.
Against women? The fact that women are denied the ability to receive certain types of education. In the sense of, within schooling, they are often intentionally pushed towards certain careers.
For women.
No.
Just for time, we're gonna have to end this one, but let's at least shake hands. And it was a good try. Thank you guys.
No ill will even on camera. Okay.